But let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. These words, etched in the heart of the Book of Amos, resonate with the timeless power of truth. They introduce us to Amos, a shepherd prophet from the rugged landscape of Tekoa. He dared to challenge the complacency of his time. He stood before the powerful, the wealthy, the elite. Amos delivered a stark message: God demands justice. Amos was no priest cloistered in a temple. He was a man of the land, familiar with the rhythms of nature and the struggles of everyday life. His words were not polished pronouncements but searing indictments. They exposed the hypocrisy and injustice festering beneath the surface of Israelite society. Amos, the unlikely messenger, became the voice for the voiceless. Hailing from the humble village of Tekoa, Amos was a shepherd by trade. He knew the harsh realities of life on the margins. He tended sheep and cultivated sycamore figs, simple tasks that brought him close to the land and the Creator. Amos's life was a world away from the opulent palaces and bustling marketplaces of the northern kingdom of Israel. Yet God chose this ordinary shepherd to deliver an extraordinary message. Imagine Amos, rough hands calloused from tending sheep, standing before the glittering court of King Jeroboam II. He was a stark contrast to the perfumed courtiers and silk-robed priests. His message was equally jarring, a sharp rebuke to the excesses and indifference of the ruling class. God, Amos declared, had seen the suffering of the poor and the corruption of the powerful. Judgment was coming. The Israelites considered themselves God's chosen people. They prided themselves on their religious observances and opulent sacrifices. But Amos saw through the facade of piety. He exposed the rot at the core of their society. The wealthy were exploiting the poor, trampling on the vulnerable and perverting justice for their gain. Dishonesty, bribery, and oppression were rampant. Amos's voice thundered through the marketplaces and palaces. He denounced the greed of merchants who rigged scales and hoarded grain, driving up prices and starving the poor. He condemned the judges who took bribes and twisted the law, favoring the rich and condemning the innocent. He exposed the hypocrisy of religious leaders who condoned injustice while performing elaborate rituals. Amos's message was not limited to Israel. He proclaimed God's judgment on surrounding nations: Damascus, Gaza, Tyre, Edom, Ammon, Moab, their sins, cruelty, violence, and oppression. God, Amos declared, sees the actions of all people. No nation is exempt from accountability. Justice knows no boundaries. Israel, however, received the harshest condemnation. They had turned away from God, embracing idolatry and indulging in social injustice. They had broken their covenant with God. Therefore they would face the consequences. Their feasts would turn to mourning, their songs to lamentation. Their opulent cities would lie in ruins. Section 5. Ritual without righteousness, the emptiness of empty worship. Amos delivered a scathing critique of religious hypocrisy. He witnessed elaborate sacrifices and meticulously observed festivals. Yet these outward displays masked inward corruption. The Israelites were going through the motions of religion without embracing its essence: justice, compassion, and humility. God, Amos declared, desires mercy, not sacrifice. He takes no pleasure in empty rituals while the cries of the oppressed go unheard. True worship, Amos insisted, is inseparable from righteous living. It manifests in treating others with fairness, honesty, and compassion. God's judgment would fall on those who honored him with their lips but dishonored him with their actions. Section 6. Visions of Warning. Amos's graphic portrayals of God's judgment. To drive home his message, Amos employed vivid imagery. He saw visions of a locust swarm devouring the land, leaving behind desolation and famine. He witnessed a scorching fire consuming everything in its path, a symbol of God's wrath against sin. He described a plumb line used by builders to ensure straight walls. God, holding the plumb line, found Israel utterly crooked, deserving of demolition. In another vision, Amos saw a basket of summer fruit, ripe and ready to eat. This represented Israel, ripe for judgment. Their time of prosperity and indulgence was coming to an end. God's patience had worn thin. Judgment was imminent. Section 7, A Glimmer of Hope, the promise of restoration and renewal. While Amos's message was primarily one of judgment, it also contained a glimmer of hope. He spoke of a future time when God would restore the fortunes of his people. He would gather them from exile, replant them in their land, and establish their kingdom in righteousness. This restoration, however, was conditional. It hinged on the people's repentance. They had to turn away from their wicked ways, embrace justice, and walk humbly with their God. Only then would they experience the fullness of God's blessings. Justice, Amos proclaimed, is not merely a legal concept. It is the foundation for true peace and lasting prosperity. Section 8. A timeless message for today, Amos's call for justice in a broken world. Centuries have passed since Amos first delivered his message, yet his words retain a startling relevance. We live in a world plagued by the same social ills that plagued ancient Israel. We witness poverty, inequality, oppression, and corruption. We see systems rigged to benefit the few at the expense of the many. Amos's message challenges us to examine our own hearts and societies. Are we perpetuating systems of injustice? Are we turning a blind eye to the suffering of others? Are we content with empty rituals while ignoring the cries of the marginalized? Section 9. Beyond Ritual, Towards Action, Embracing Justice as a Way of Life. Amos's call to action is clear. We are called to be more than just religious observers. We are called to be agents of justice, to be repairers of the breach, to be advocates for the vulnerable. True faith, Amos reminds us, is not passive. It compels us to act. We are called to challenge unjust systems. We are called to speak truth to power. We are called to stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. This is the legacy of Amos, the shepherd prophet. Section 10. Finish with a call to action, applying Amos's teachings to today. Let us heed the words of Amos. Let us work tirelessly to ensure that justice rolls down like a mighty river, sweeping away corruption, greed, and indifference. Let righteousness flow like a never-failing stream, nourishing our communities and bringing forth a harvest of peace and justice for all. Let us build a world where the scales of justice are balanced, where the voices of the marginalized are heard, and where the dignity of every human being is honored. This is the challenge and the promise of Amos, a timeless message for a world in desperate need of repair.